Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Focus TV. This is season 5, episode 4. Joined tonight, we have Octavia Wyatt, Raymond Lyons, Wilson Tarpek Jr., and let's get to it. Keith has another Pac-12 segment. Ray's going to talk about the Wizards and Go-Go. We got some college basketball updates for you. Got a fun round of rapid fire, depending on, we will see what Octavia and Ray think of rapid fire once we get there. But we're going to start off with the NFC East, as always. Octavia, the floor is yours.
What can I say about the NFC East this week? It is literally just, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to start with the surprising to the next surprising to the most surprising thing that happened in the NFC East this week. So the surprising thing for me is the Cowboys played on Thanksgiving against the Raiders, and I was definitely surprised that they lost. They lost to the Raiders 36-33. Dak Prescott was 32 of 47, 375 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 carry for 3 yards. Tony Pollard had 10 carries for 36 yards, 4 receptions for 32 yards. Ezekiel Elliott had 9 carries for 25 yards and 1 touchdown and 6 receptions for 24 yards. Michael Gallup had 5 receptions for 106 yards. Dalton Schultz, 3 receptions, 46 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Sean McKeon, 1 reception, 10 yards, 1 touchdown, his first career touchdown for him. Surprising to say the least. It was a good game that was muddied up by a whole lot of penalties. There was a lot of laundry being thrown around in this game. To the tune of Dallas had 14, a franchise record, 166 yards in penalties. Las Vegas themselves, they had 14 for 110 yards, but none bigger than the 4 against Anthony Brown. It's crazy because early in the season, people kept throwing at Trayvon, and we kept saying, like, don't throw over there. So I guess Derek Carr finally listened, and it was like, okay, let me try the other side. But I will be honest, a lot of these calls were, for lack of a better term, suspect. A lot of people had a bunch of different opinions on the calls, but they happened and they lost. Legitimately in overtime, the penalty on Anthony Brown, and all 4 of his penalties came on 3rd down incompletions, which makes it that much worse. We were so close to holding them to the 4th down, but those penalties just cost a lot. Tyron Smith had a penalty that negated a touchdown for them early in the 4th quarter as well. And what's even worse is that these last couple of games with Dallas on a 2 or 3 game losing streak right now is that it muddies up how well Michael Parsons is playing. Michael Parsons is everywhere. And I talked about it last week, and I'm going to talk about it again this week. He is your rookie defensive player of the year, excuse me. He's legitimately everywhere, and he's doing everything he could possibly do to get them to win the game. But unfortunately, they're in a little bit of a slide right now. A lot of it does also have to take effect in regards to they're missing a lot of top-notch players. Amari Cooper missed his 2nd game due to COVID. He is not vaccinated, so he had to be out for 10 days, and it came at the worst time of the year where they're on a short week, so he missed 2 games. CeeDee Lamb, who left the previous game early due to a concussion, did not pass all of the tests to play in that game, so he was out as well. Also, Zeke Elliott is nursing a knee injury, so that's why his production didn't really look that great. But, of course, DeMarcus Lawrence is still out. Randy Gregory is still out. But there's a good chance that a lot of these players come back. They play again on a Thursday night. They played this week against the Saints, except for Tristan Hill, who was actually suspended for 2 games for punching a Raider player in the face after the game. Why? I don't know, guys. You already lost the game at this point. I don't know why we had to even do the extraness, but I guess he was angry. At least he was smart enough to do it with the guy's helmet off so he wouldn't break his hand or anything. But still, that probably made it worse, which is why he got a 2-game suspension. So he will not be at the game this Thursday. Next surprising thing. We had a game between 2 people in the division. So the Eagles played against the Giants. And I am disgusted to say the Giants defeated the Eagles. The Giants 13, Eagles 7. Jalen Hurts was 14 of 31, 129 yards, 3 interceptions, 8 carries for 77 yards. Boston Scott, 15 carries, 64 yards for 1 tumble and 1 very, very costly fumble. Miles Sanders had 9 carries for 64 yards. Kenneth Gainwell was our leading receiver with 3 catches and 32 yards. That should tell you a lot right there. On the other side of the ball, the Giants, Daniel Jones was 19 of 30, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 9 carries for 30 yards. Saquon Barkley had 13 carries for 40 yards. Kenny Golladay, 3 receptions for 50 yards. And Myrick, 2 receptions, 11 yards, and 1 impressive-ish touchdown. It was just a complete, just terrible game for the Eagles. Penalties, again, at inopportune times. Jason Kelce got injured in the second quarter, had a knee injury, so he had to come out. And here comes big old Nate Herbig with 2 costly holding penalties. One that negated a touchdown where, had that not happened, technically could have won the game. But that still doesn't give, a reason for Jalen Hurts to play as bad as he played. I think it's kind of crazy just because during this past week, they were actually back in in the radio and the media again. They were talked about on pretty much any sports show that you would have seen during the week. So they were back in the running of possibly being, a wild card. But this game to me just shows that they're not ready. So I don't foresee it anymore. This is the type of game that you have a terrible game. Your quarterback throws 3 interceptions. You're missing Jordan Howard, who came from the practice squad, but it's definitely been a big help to us. So him not playing, I definitely think hurt. To still have a chance to win it, Jalen Reagor, if I already didn't quite care for you, you're tipping a little bit further over the line. Trying to catch the ball with your eyes closed, that's not going to happen, especially for you. 2 costly drops with everything that went bad in that game. Still had a chance to win the game. Jalen still put the ball right in your hands, and you were not able to catch the ball. Just so you know, as of now in Philadelphia, they are referring to you as Nelson Aguilar. So read into that what you want, because when Nelson Aguilar dropped a lot of passes, the whole city was very upset. On the other side of the ball, the Giants played a decent game. Again, like I said, I honestly don't think that we should have lost. It was a defensive battle. Their defense played a lot better than I was expecting. Again, our offense played really, really bad. But again, they did what they needed to do to win the game on a day where Michael Strahan's 92 jersey got retired. They played up to Bill, and they did exactly what they needed to do to win the game. We still ran the ball well, but they were able to, obviously, our passing game, not up to par. So the Giants were able to win victorious 1 week after they fired their offensive coordinator. So that was a spark that they needed. I don't know if Giant fans are so much happy about it, because I'm pretty sure they still wanted to get rid of Joe Judge and David Gettleman. If it starts to look like it worked, maybe they keep them. So who knows? But the Giants will play against the Dolphins next week, who are killing right now. So that's going to be a very interesting game for them. And then the Eagles will stay in New York and play against the Jets. If they lose to the Jets, I will not be here next week. Last but not least, the most, to me, surprising thing all week, the Washington football team defeated the Seahawks. Now, that's not the surprising part, because we all know the Seahawks are struggling a little bit this year. But Washington football team won 17-15. Taylor Heineke was 27 of 35, 223 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception, 4 carries for 3 yards. Antonio Gibson had 29 carries, 111 yards, 7 receptions for 35 yards. J.D. McKissick, Mr. Do-It-All, had 7 carries for 30 yards and 1 touchdown, and 5 receptions for 26 yards and 1 touchdown. And Terry McLaurin had 4 receptions for 51 yards. I know I talk about Taylor Heineke a lot, and I'm still not going to crown him whatever you guys want to crown him, but he is definitely having a very good stretch of games. He's beat many NFL MVPs in the last few weeks: Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, all of these players that are really, really good. and he's going toe-to-toe with them. He's staying in there. He actually had an escape from the pocket that looked just like something that Russell Wilson would do when he ducked down and the player just went flying over top of him. But in all Washington football team fashion, they still almost gave the game away at the end. But Kendall Fuller came up with an interception on the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. But then still, we don't really see a lot of onside kicks get tried and made successful. The Seahawks completed an onside kick. They got the ball returned, but got flagged for a bad set. They weren't set up properly on the kick, so got overturned. And even on the second time they tried it, they still had a good chance of getting it. But to me, the most surprising part is, as much as we talked about the Washington football team, their defense, their offense, the people that they're missing, they are in a wild card spot. Who would have ever thought that somebody in the NFC East would ever even have a wild card spot this year, even for a second? That wasn't a Dallas Cowboys team. Even for 1 second. I'm surprised that they are here, but they are, and they're playing well. But again, they have a lot of games left. There are still a lot of games left in the division. They have not played the Eagles at all. They have not played the Cowboys at all as well. So there are still so many games left in the division. And with the Cowboys on a, I won't say decline, but on a skid right now, the NFC East is a little bit wide open. You never really know what can happen with these last couple of games in the season. It's a little bit open, but the Washington football team will play the Raiders next week, who's coming off of a big win against the Cowboys and had a lot of time to rest up. So we'll see what happens next week in this crazy NFC East. I'm sure something wild will happen again.
Yeah, the NFL is going nuts. The NFC is definitely nuts. Everything changes by minute every Sunday. Like, you only between the 1 p.m. and the 4 p.m. slot, like, it's absolutely
like
nuts.
Everything just goes bonkers. Like, I don't know what happens.
Yeah, teams that were already, planning, we're told to plan for the draft out here in the playoffs as of right now, all of a sudden, because other teams can't take care of business.
Right.
So there's a lot of mid-tier teams in this year NFL. It's one of the years where there's not one team we could be like, oh man, they're clear cut above everybody. No, all y'all, every Sunday, somebody could do something crazy and give up the ghost to anybody. It just doesn't. It literally doesn't matter. We're gonna pass this on to Keith for this week's Pac-12 segment. Then we'll follow by our first break, and when we return from that, gonna talk to Raymond about these Wizards and the Capital City Go-Go.
We're back, another week of Pac-12 football. Let's get right into it. First game we're going to go out with, we're just going to get it out of the way because, my excitement's going to come and I'm going to get it out of the way sooner rather than later. ASU defeats U of A 38-15. They win the Territorial Cup for the 5th time in a row, which is a big, I didn't know this until this year, but this is a ginormous thing. We won it in complete dominance, but when I say that, there are certain things that we did struggle with. As in ASU, on third down, they do struggle to get off the field sometimes. And, keeping a quarterback contained has been a problem all season where if there's a quarterback with a bit of mobility, they kind of sort of like they don't understand how to contain him and either keep a spy or make sure that there's somebody that makes sure he does not have that open gate through the middle. But they figured it out toward the end of the game. The game went along. They adjusted. Is what you do in football. You adjust. They definitely did adjust, and hence the score. They completely dominated in the second half. Jaden Daniels had 86 passing yards, but 2 touchdowns. So it's like 2 touchdowns is good, but it's like how Jameis Winston had 140 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, clearly they came in the red zone. But Rashad White came 98 yards, 1 touchdown. He continues to be dominant. He's a senior, so this is his final year at ASU. Unfortunately, but he has been a dominant running back all year. But some spicy news considering for ASU. Spencer Rattler did enter the transfer portal. I spoke to you guys about this a couple weeks back. Spencer Rattler is now officially in the transfer portal. Now, he hasn't came out of what schools he wants to go to or anything like that. But as I mentioned to you guys in the past, he is from Arizona. So look for ASU to be one of his top options. Now let's Go on to the next game. Boulder falls to Utah 28-13. Cameron Rising had 179, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. When I watch Cameron Rise, you see like his hip movement is very nice, and he when he goes through the form and he gets the ball out, his hips follow through, and it's one of the better things about a part of his game. And I enjoy watching Cameron Rising when it comes to that. But this guy steals the show every game. Tavion Thomas, 25 carries, 142 yards, and a touchdown. When you've got a running back like that, it's just like, hey, do what you've got to do. I really can't stop it. So I know Cameron Rising's happy to have a guy like Tavion Thomas in the backfield with him. That's a nice duo to be compared. And he's making a case for best running back in the Pac-12. He's making a case. Travis Dye was up there, but he has just been on a rampage for the past couple weeks, and it hasn't been no stopping him. And he's done it on good defenses, specifically Oregon, where he dropped multiple touchdowns. So it's like, got to give the guy his props. So let's move on to Washington State, who just beat down Washington 40-13. DeLore had 245, no touchdowns, no interceptions, so it was a mid-game for him. But he's still a very talented guy. Some games you don't throw touchdowns, but he still came out with a dominant win. But it was Borghi, the running back, who stole the show. 22 carries, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I told you this guy reminds me a lot of CMC. Excuse me. And the way he makes cuts and he bounces off of tackles just screams CMC when you watch him play. For those who don't know, that is Christian McCaffrey. I do enjoy watching both of them play, and they remind me so much about each other with their field vision and their ball carrier vision and how patient they are behind the line of scrimmage. On to Oregon and Oregon State. It's a lot of teams going against the state teams. ASU, Arizona, Oregon State. But Brown did improve. I know I've been hard on him when it came to passing in the past, but he did improve. He had 275 passing yards on 2 touchdowns. He went 23 for 28. So when you're completing passes at a good rate like that, you've got to get props. I said the guy has to get better at passing. He did it. But I also have to compliment the fact that Travis Dye did dominate. He's been shaky as of recent, but now he's back to normal. 20 carries, 99 yards, and multiple touchdowns. That's what Dye does. He's just a dominant guy. I know he wanted that 1 extra yard to get 100, but it's still an amazing stat line to have multiple touchdowns. Dye is just a speedster. When he gets that ball, he's electric coming off the line of scrimmage. His acceleration is like no other. There aren't too many guys in college football that you're going to find are going to be able to run toe-to-toe with this guy, especially at the running back position. Notre Dame beat Stanford 45-14. Stanford hasn't done much this year, so it's like Notre Dame's a top 10 ranked team in the nation, and when you're going against a lower team at Stanford, 45-14 is the score you expect. Kyron Williams, who's a NFL prospect who may actually come back to Notre Dame, no one knows, had 19 carries, 74 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, what can you do to stop the guy? That's a guy who I think will be very talented in the NFL. He's a receiving back who also can take it the distance coming out of the backfield and as a running back. So he's a very talented guy. He's a bit smaller, but nowadays running backs are of that size no matter what. Tanner McKee only had 1 touchdown. So, he's been okay over the year. He hasn't been too great. He hasn't been bad. So it's just like he's been in the middle. So not much you can say about Tanner McKee. BYU beats USC 35-31. Jackson Dart at 248 and a touchdown. But let's start our roles here. And by the time you guys see this news has already happened. But I'm going to say it again, and we're going to speak about it for a little bit. Lincoln Riley is now the head coach of USC. Now, what does this mean from my perspective? I do believe Caleb Williams will follow him. Lincoln Riley is the quarterback whisperer. He had Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, all these NFL quarterbacks. So Caleb Williams, who wants to be an NFL quarterback, came to him. Now Lincoln Riley is in USC. So obviously he's not. He doesn't. It was only his first year playing at Oklahoma, so he's not really too tied with Oklahoma as to where he's a junior or senior. He's been there his entire no. He is his first year as playing for this organization, and then the quarterback whisperer, the head coach, leaves. I think he'll follow. Only problem is USC has Jackson Dart, and I think very highly of Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is an amazing player, but I do think Caleb Williams will follow the trail to Lincoln Riley. And who's to say? Now, Who would love to see a game if Spencer Rattler came to ASU and Lincoln Riley is at USC and they go against each other? You cannot tell me that's not a game that would be on ESPN and it would shut down a lot. That would be very interesting to see. The guy who got benched by the quarterback whisperer and the guy who's now at a new school. I think that would be very interesting to see. USC is going to be a very interesting team to watch years to come. Will they bounce back next year automatically? No, that's not going to happen. But they will. They haven't been, excuse me, they haven't been but so great as of late. But I think now having Lincoln Riley there, it'll switch everything up. They'll be a very talented team. He's a great recruiter, and he's going to flip that organization back to where they used to be. UCLA destroys Cal 42-14. DTR 164, 3 touchdowns, no picks. We love it when these college quarterbacks have, these good passing games, high touchdowns, no interceptions. That means their decision making has progressed. A lot of these quarterbacks in the Pac-12 have progressed when it comes to decision making over the year. When they started out, I think like the first 3 weeks, quarterback play was on the lower tier of things, and as of late, quarterback passing has just went skyrocket. They've been progressing. Their decision making has been way better than it has been over the past season, so that's great for them. Charbonnet, 22 carries, 106 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now, I think this guy is like one of the later round running backs, but view him as Elijah Mitchell. He's a guy who's been on the lower radar of things over the past season, but I do think if a team with a good offensive line can pick him up in the later rounds, I do think he can become a very talented back in the NFL. Greg Dulcich as well. I'm very high on this guy. I watched him in the ASU UCLA game. He's a tight end, so he had 6 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. But look at the guys they're like the faster tight end. Darren Waller's and maybe Mark Andrews are only the few fast tight ends in the NFL who are on that upper tier of tight ends. But you got guys like Travis Kelce and George Kittle who aren't so fast, but they're route running and they do the little things correctly. And I think Greg Dulcich has the ability to do that. He is a very talented guy when it comes to route running. And when you watch Travis Kelce, he just somehow gets open. That's very similar to Greg Dulcich. And no, I'm not comparing him to him. I'm just using an example as not all the guys who are on everybody's radar are always going to be the guys who are the upper tier of tight ends. I think Greg Dulcich has a very possible chance at becoming a great, talented tight end in the NFL. Can't wait to get to you guys back next week. See you then.
Welcome back to the Focus TV. As always, appreciate Keith knocking out the Pac-12 segment. Then move this on to Ray. What's going on with the Wizards and the Go-Go as of late?
All right, I'm going to start with the Wizards. They're just coming off a 4-game road trip. They split 2-2. I mean, if you guys have been tuned into Wizards Outlook, it's main thing we've been talking about is their consistency. That's really been the issue for them. Either they're up or they're down. It's really not a middle ground with this team right now, and and that's an issue because when they're on it, when they're playing at their ceiling, then they're a pretty good team, but when they're not at their ceiling, they're near their floor, which is an issue, and that leads to the kind of sporadic results we're getting at this point through the season. I mean, they're 13-7, which is not bad at all, but after their hot start, that means through the last few games they've been kind of treading water, to put it in plain terms. We still haven't seen a complete game from them defensively. They've been playing enough defense to get wins, but last night against the Spurs, that defense wasn't there. And if you're playing a Greg Popovich team, one thing they're going to do is execute and take care of the ball and make adjustments. And that's what happened, and that's what led to the to the result we got last night. They lost to the Spurs 116-99. And then in the second half, it was just the adjustments that the Spurs made to what the Wizards were doing or not doing, basically, that created that big of a margin. So yeah, man, they just got to figure out who they are, and and stick to that. So they should be fine. But who's to say? Still got a lot of season left. They got a veteran team. They got good pieces, and they're still not whole. So we really don't know what the final edition of this team looks like. But there is some promise. Gaffer's starting to come into his own. We knew what he brought defensively, but he is starting to add some offensive improvements to his game. He's effective in the pick and roll, catching lobs, and at times they're able to throw the ball down to him and he can make something happen. So yeah, man, it's not an indictment on them at all, what's been going on with them recently, but you do want to see them kind of develop some habits and get some continuity with what they're doing, because like I said, when they're on it, they're a tough team to beat, man. They got a lot of talent, they got a lot of experience, they got guys with championship experience, and they seem to mesh well and enjoy playing with each other. So those are some ingredients that should lead to success. But moving on to the Go-Go, they played one game since last week against the College Park Skyhawks. They defeated them. They're actually playing them right now. They're up 78-68 the end of the third quarter. So they should be able to go ahead and close this one out. But yeah, man, they're 4-3. Cassius Winston finally had a Cassius Winston game. He had 27 points off the bench. The Go-Go, they had an impressive defensive showing in the second half of their last game against the Skyhawks. They gave up 64 in the first half, held them to 39 points in the second half. That was and they were able to come away with a 10-point victory, 113-103. Yeah, man, they, like I said, they're 4-3 on the season. The Skyhawks, they're a fairly young team as well as the Go-Go. So it was a good win to get, especially since the Skyhawks are winless to this point. So it would have been a bad look for them to finally get on the board against the Go-Go. But they were able to hold them off. It was all around. It was a pretty good game for Capital City. They had 5 players in double figures. It was a modest scoring night for Jordan Goodwin, who's been leading them in that area this season, but he found other ways to contribute. He added 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. Joel Ayayi, he's one of the two-way guys, had a near triple-double, 11 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists. Isaiah Todd joined the party, 18.7 rebounds, excuse me. Todd, he's a talented young guy, man. He's just still trying to figure it out. This is basically his second season starting from scratch, because the Ignite experience is just kind of completely different than what he's going through right now. He was just surrounded by a lot of young guys with talent and spotlight on him, and he pretty much just had to kind of find his way. And now the situation he's in is different, man. But getting to spend some time with the Wizards is also good for his development. So he's just going to keep an eye on his development. So he's got a lot of tools, got a lot of upside. He's a long, rangy guy. That's kind of what is being coveted in basketball right now. Long defenders on the wing and guys with perimeter skills, and he kind of fits that mold. So yeah, man, he'll be okay. I know people like to write off 20-year-old basketball players nowadays, but just be patient, man. He's in his good spot. He's getting some experience, and he's getting to see what it's like to be relied on to produce at this level. So yeah, man, the Go-Go, they're in a good spot. Like I keep saying every week, they're basically a new franchise at this point. They haven't been around for a long time to begin with, but to start over from scratch with a new GM, new coach, and a completely overhauled roster, you're gonna expect some inconsistency. You're gonna expect some bumps in the road and some growing pains. And they're just working through them right now, and they're doing a pretty decent job. They got Greg Monroe in there, which is a good thing. A guy with a lot of NBA experience. I think he's going to do wonders for Jaime Ekanike. He's a project, man. He's a really raw talent, but he's got some good things going, man. So Greg Monroe being around there to mentor him should pay some dividends. So yeah, man, they're up now. 82-70. So hopefully they can go ahead and close this one out. And we'll see you next week with another update.
All right, appreciate that, Ray. Filling in for Cardell a little bit with GW men's and women's, the college segment. As far as GW men's go, they fell to Missouri State last Wednesday, 72-54. Up next, they'll face Boston University. For the women's fell to Florida, 61-50 last week. They'll host James Madison on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Don't forget to get over to finestmag.com and focustv.com for game recaps on both the GW men's and women's team. Weekly, Cardell kind of shares a standout from around the country. This week's standout was on the men's side. A little bit of a local flavor. It's Alex Morales of the Wagner Seahawks. The 6'6" guard is averaging 17.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per contest. He's also shooting 66% from the floor. He's a former Prince George's Community College standout. As for the University of Maryland women's basketball team, I showed you guys last week, they had a big week coming up. They beat Baylor, albeit a bit shorthanded, and then they went down to the Bahamas for Thanksgiving for Baha Mar Pink Flamingo Hoops Championship. Maryland was a bit shorthanded before making a trip. So they took on 2 top 10 teams without the services of Diamond Miller, Faith Masonis, or Katie Benson. They fell to a hot NC State team that led wire to wire, 78-60. Diamond Johnson really showed out in this one for the Wolfpack. She was amazing as the lead guard for them. She's a transfer from Rutgers, and she just led a well-balanced attack from NC State. The Terps fell behind in the first half. They kept fighting and kind of righted the ship to outscore NC State in the second half, 33-29. But, we all know, Ray, you talk about the Wizards being inconsistent. You go down, if you almost kind of, lose a whole half, depending on how far you got dug into a hole, it doesn't matter what you do the second half. You can't get out of it, especially when you're missing pieces, like quality pieces. Up next, they faced 7th-ranked Stanford and lost 86-68. It was similar to the first outing. They fell behind early, couldn't quite recover against a quality opponent. Hannah Jump led Stanford with 21 points, and Haley Jones finished with 15 points and 13 rebounds. Ashley Owusu led the way for Maryland with 29 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Chloe Bibby added 15 points and 4 rebounds, and Mimi Collins barely missed a double-double with 9 points and 9 boards. It's a quote from Coach Brenda Fries following their second loss in the Bahamas. Quote, "I built this schedule so we would learn a lot about ourselves. This tournament, the adversity we faced. I think the biggest thing I'm disappointed in is our lack of competing today. We lost our poise. We lost our composure early in this game. Stanford had a lot to do with that. I thought they outworked us, out-hustled us, competed for 40 minutes. That's what a championship team looks like. That's obviously where we strive to be. They showed it for 4 straight quarters." She also went on to say, following the loss of Stanford, we've got to get ourselves back and regroup, get everyone back, get healthy, be able to put the team together that we have. Again, like our second half, especially our fourth quarter, but not really in the moral victories within this tournament. We're trying to play at a higher level than just winning a half or a quarter. Up next, the Terps host Miami Thursday at 8 p.m. at the Xfinity Center, College Park, as part of the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Yeah, for Maryland, going into that shorthanded, I don't think anybody's really shocked about how things went. I definitely do agree with Coach Fries. That said, even if you're shorthanded, those poor first halves, there's no excuse for that. But, it's one of those things as they get healthy. One of the positives in it is because people are out, some players that wouldn't have been playing as much, like freshman Cheyenne Sellers, she's getting a crash course this freshman year. She started because of players being out. She started against Baylor, NC State, and Stanford as a freshman, so that's not bad. We're going to take our second break, and when we get back, I got some DC United news for you guys, and then we'll get into rapid fire because, want to see how Xavier and Raymond deal with these questions. I think the first one's going to be about, college football coaches because they're able to leave whenever they want, and, players, bad players. So we're going to get into that just a little bit. You're watching the Focus TV. We'll see you guys in a bit. Welcome back to the Focus TV. As promised, quick DC United update. MLS playoffs is going on. As you guys know, Black and Red did not make the playoffs, so they're already starting to take care of some administrative business. DC United this past week, they announced their year-end roster decisions following the 2021 MLS season. On the Black and Red have exercised the 2022 options on Andy Nahar, Donovan Pines, Adrian Perez, Tony Alfaro, and Drew Skundrich. Youngster Kermani Smith spent the year down on London on loan, but he's going to be retained as well. DC United declined the 2022 options on Yamil Assad, John Kempen, and Felipe Martins. The club has parted ways with Yamil Assad, Ramon Abilla, Johnny Bolivar, Michael DeShields, Joseph Mora, Yordi Reyna. As you know, it's just their contracts ran up. They're free agents. Frederick Briand, Felipe Martin, and Chris Seitz all become free agents following the expiration of contracts. A bona fide offer has been made to Venezuelan national team midfielder Junior Moreno to extend his stay with the club following the expiration of his current contract. Discussions with midfielder Felipe Martins and goalkeeper John Kempen regarding possible new contracts for 2022. DC United are in discussions with Belgian club KV Kortrijk on a permanent transfer for defender Brendan Hines-Ike, who was on loan with the Black and Red for the 2021 season. Johnny Bolivar returned to his parent club, Deportivo La Guaira, in Venezuela, following the conclusion of his one-year loan. DC United declined his option for a permanent transfer. After the season, after they didn't make the playoffs, telling you guys I'm anxious to see what this roster looks like next year. Again, Coach Losada has mentioned several times throughout the year about the quality of what they have on the roster. They felt that they did the best with what they had, but when you bring up the club, when you bring up you wanting the club to invest in a roster several times during a year, he's not playing. He wants some more talent out here. They have 21 players under contract as of right now. That's Tony Alfaro, Paul Areola, Steven Birbaum, Russell Canals, Edison Flores, Jeremy Gray, Jacob Green, Julian Gressel, Bill Mead, Ola Kamara, Andy Nahar, Moses Nyman, Chris Abdul-Yassim, Kevin Paredes, Adrian Perez, Donovan Pines, Nigel Roberta, Gasu Samaki, Drew Skundrich, Kermani Smith, and Eric Sorga. So I'll keep you posted on any moves made prior to the start of the 2022 season by the Black and Red. All right, let's get to this whole rapid fire thing. Anxious to see where we want to start. Oh yeah, college football. Thoughts on Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly moving on from their current jobs and landing new gigs. Lincoln Riley's looking to put USC back on the map, and Brian Kelly going from Notre Dame to LSU. So I just want to initially get your thoughts, and then I got a follow-up question for you guys. We'll start with Octavia.
I will say that I wasn't expecting it. Especially with the Notre Dame move, a lot of people think Notre Dame is a very prestigious, place to coach, so although, people make moves all the time, but I just wasn't expecting either one of them to happen. So I feel like some people are still processing it all. I'm kind of still in that mode. Like, are they really doing this right now? And even with I can't remember which one it was now I'm thinking about it, but with the press conference that they had, and they were like, going off of the Mike Tomlin situation, like, yeah, unless they got 250 M's, like, I'm probably not leaving. And then, next week, you got 95 M's and you decided to leave. So, it just gives me pause a lot more than, I already had pause with them anyway, but it just gives you pause to kind of take people at face value, especially in those positions, because they're just going to tell you what you want to hear. But yeah, I definitely was surprised on both ends, and I'm just really looking forward to see what continues to happen, because now that those positions are open, who's now going to fill the next positions. The Notre Dame athletic director, I watched the press conference this morning. They're saying they're getting ready to start their search, and they've already been contacted by numerous people. Apparently they haven't reached out, but, people have contacted them. So I'm sure they won't have a hard time finding, a new coach. I'm just looking forward to see who it is.
All right, Ray.
Yeah, man, this seemed out of left field to me. Like Octavia brought up, Notre Dame that's a prestigious job. That's, you usually get Supreme Court term in there to it's till death, man. Like you don't leave that job. So that was odd. But then the Lincoln Kelly move, it was unexpected, but that's a good move for him, man. If the weird thing about USC, like if you're good there, you're like royalty. But if you're bad, nobody seems to care. So, why not? It seems like a win-win for him, he's getting paid handsomely, he's going to a school with some football history. They're on a downturn right now, but let's say he's able to resurrect that program, then he can write his own ticket for the rest of his life, so yeah, man, I was taken aback. I didn't expect either one of these things to happen, but because Oklahoma's not a bad job in itself, but I can definitely see why he made the move.
Yeah, like that was the craziest part. It's not like these people left bottom level schools. They left Power 5 schools with, all the prestige in the world, and we're just like, LSU called bye. And like the Notre Dame athletic director, I hear you, but that's not a good look. Somebody literally was like, Notre Dame, all your years of prestige. It was like, bye. Didn't even think twice. There's some reports coming out there that Coach Kelly, like, he texts the players like, yo, I'm leaving. Deuces.
Sorry you had to hear about it on the news.
Man, like that was it. Lincoln Riley
met with him for 11 minutes.
Lincoln Riley got on a PJ in Oklahoma gear to go to USC. And then the other thing with that, like you said, you handle business at USC, you can become a legend, right? And the one thing that's like Lincoln Riley has in his favor, there's a lot of quarterbacks coming out of California, out of high school, for the past couple of years that don't stay in state. Guess what Lincoln Riley's going to do, since he gets to be like, well, look, I had all these Heisman Trophy winners in first year and first round quarterbacks under my tutelage. Man, USC's about to end up keeping all their talent in state. And some people aren't going to like it. But my second question for you guys, and Ray, we'll start with that. With you, who do you think was the better hire? I know it's early. We can all be wrong, but who did you like better as a hire?
Oh, man. You know what? I think Riley for the reason you just stated, the recruiting aspect, like you need a quarterback in college football. And like you said, if he's able to keep that talent in state, we can see USC return to prominence. Not to say that Brian Kelly's not a good coach, but especially for the situation, I think Riley's in a move to a situation with more upside, and for the fact that he's able to churn out these first round NFL QBs, that's a big feather in his cap, man, and that can't be that can't be understated. Especially if he's able to keep those guys in California schools, that's going to be a big advantage for him. So yeah, I think I'm going to say I'll say he's the better hire, and he's going to do a better job. I'll
you're going to take it a step forward. I like it. All right, how about Octavia? What you going on record with? You going where Ray went, or you just taking step one with the response?
Nah, but I agree with what he's saying, because I definitely think that him being the quote unquote quarterback whisperer, that's going to cause a lot of people to want to learn from him. You see, like you said, the talent that he's helped get to the pros. Not talk about one of them, but you see all the talent that he's helped get to the pros. Might need to go talk to another one of them, but save that for later. But I think that that's going to be a really big selling point for him. And to top it off, like you said, in Cali, people don't think about markets like that in college like they do in the NFL. But I'm sure a lot of people would like to go play in Cali. That's just a thought. So I definitely agree in that aspect of it. And I'm also just interested to see what happens with Spencer Rattler, because he leaving too. So what he think he going? Where he going? He going with him or he going? Like I can't say his name. You know what I'm talking about? Keith just talked about, figuring out where he's gonna go. So that would be interesting too. But yeah, I definitely agree with Ray. I think just the fact that he's able to recruit the way he does, and being able to keep a lot of kids in state will definitely help them out. I mean, he helped Mighty Mouse, guys.
Man, you didn't lie. Again, like him bringing players into his office is literally just showing pictures. So that's Kyler, that's Jalen, here's Baker, and another thing to think about, like we saw what happened in Oklahoma this year with Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams, right? And I know, like Keith mentioned Jackson Dart, and that's great. Hey man, if Caleb Williams hits Lincoln up and says, hey coach, trying to come out USC, we all understand what's happening, right? Jackson Dart, I appreciate you. Thanks for playing. Bye. But again, it's all a good thing. I'm with you guys. Like USC's been kind of dead for so long. And then the other thing USC's been doing, they've been producing players at other positions. They just haven't had quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had Michael Pittman come out at wide receiver. You got Drake London, who Keith has been banging the table about Drake London for a year. And imagine if Drake London had an actual quarterback, like full time. Who knows what would happen? All right, so this is an interesting one. We're going to women's soccer. And I need y'all to listen real slow because it took me a while to read this when I typed it. Ellen White of England becomes her country's all-time goal scorer as the Lionesses scored 20 goals in a World Cup qualifier against Latvia. They beat Latvia 20-0 in a World Cup qualifier on Tuesday. Are you guys more shocked by White's record of 48 international goals or England scoring 20 goals in a World Cup qualifying game? Ray, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Octavia.
Definitely by them scoring 20 goals in one game. Like I've never heard of anything like that in my life. Like, did they not have a goalie? Like wow, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the 20 goals in one game, man. Like, because I mean, I don't, I'm not that well versed in women's soccer. I don't know how long she's been playing, but a high level player over, that a long career. I mean, the numbers are going to add up. Not to say it's automatic, because obviously she has the most ever for her country, so it's not, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, a soccer team scoring 20 goals in one game in a World Cup qualifying match. Like, how did they get there if they allowed 20 goals in one game?
I'll tell you.
That is the correct answer. Who scores 20 goals in a soccer game? I've never heard of that. I played soccer. That is ridiculous. Like, at this point, like, the whole team should at least just everybody go stand in the goalie. Just don't let them score no more. Like, nobody go up, no forwards, no midfielders. Everybody stays back. Just line up straight across the goalie line and just wait for time to expire. Like, there's no way in heck I'm letting somebody score 20 goals in a soccer game. They should be banned from soccer. They are not allowed to play anymore. No more qualifiers. Nothing. Who did I'm sorry, we should have got the mercy rule at this point. Like, shut the game down. There's no more need to play. I'd have faked the injury. I'm like, I can't play no more. Like, nah, it's time to go.
I mean,
that is ridiculous.
The thing is, soccer, if you fake an injury, that time they gonna get their time. It's just gonna last longer.
I'm gonna say not if we don't have enough players to play, but they take you all the way down to nothing, to play handicap out there.
6 on 11. Ref gonna look at you like, man, that's a personal problem. But yeah, like, I had to read that 4 times.
More minutes.
Like, I closed 5 tabs and reopened it to make sure I was reading it correctly. It was that bad. All right, the last one of tonight. Excuse me. Old Khaki Pants has finally done it. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh finally won a meaningful game during his tenure. It's about time. It took 17 years, but hey, the bar is you know where. Whatever works, go blue and all that nonsense. They beat the Buckeyes 42-27 for the first time since he took his khakis to the big house, and they're now in the college football playoff. You guys' thoughts on Michigan breaking through? Octavia, we'll start with you, and then Ray.
Like you said, it took a while, and listening to everybody this past week, a lot of people didn't have faith in them, and I'm not surprised. You know, I watched the game when they played Michigan State. They should have won that game, and they didn't. So to go against Ohio State as well as they've been playing, like I was on the same side. So you could tell that they finally decided to play harder, I guess, in this situation. Like people, like I don't know why people consider this a rivalry, because a rivalry, like sometimes you win, sometimes they win. It's been them winning the entire time. So I guess you could call it a little bit of a rivalry now because they got one. But you would have thought they won, you know, the whole world. Like the world was over, and Michigan is now the captain and the only team left in the world. But congratulations to them, because like you said, it took him and his khakis a long time to do it. And a lot of people were talking about, if he didn't do it this year, should he be fired? And obviously, you know, now he doesn't have to worry about that scenario, but now they still got a lot more to prove. You know, they play against Iowa next week in the conference champions, so they can't follow it up. To me, like, you can't follow a win against Ohio State and now lose. Like, you got to win. So now I'm ready to see what they do next week.
All right, how about you, Ray, on khaki pants winning a big game?
Yo, has he really been there for 17 years?
No.
I feel like it, though. It's been like hold on. How long has it been?
Like 8 or 9?
It's been like 8. It's been like 8.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been like 8 or 9.
I was like, hold up, is he being facetious or is he being serious? Like, but then I had to think, because it's been a long time. Like, but yeah,
it has been a minute though.
It's by far the biggest win since he's been there. I mean, it's really all that matters with Michigan football, for real. So yeah, man, good kudos to him, man. It's definitely a huge win for that program. And he's bought himself some leeway, you know, because they definitely were ready to put his head on the spike, man. But I mean, you get that monkey off your back, and all is well again. You know, I don't even think it matters what they do moving forward. You know,
because they beat Ohio State. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good point, though.
You know, and then say he comes back and beats him again next year.
Oh man, he's gonna be there forever.
Yeah, I think that's what that's a clause in your contract when you get hired as head football coach of Michigan. You got to beat Ohio State. But yeah, man, that was a huge win, and you could tell the program, the fans, they have been geeking for it for a long time, you know, and so yeah, that's their championship, you know, and they have been getting dogged for a while in that game, and they finally broke through. And you know, I can imagine how that feels, man, to win a big rivalry game like that in college. Like it's got to feel good, man. But yeah, it's always funny to me, like, to see. You know, I get it. It's a big game. It's a rivalry game. Ohio State's one of the most storied franchises in college football, but like to see that type of reaction over a game with, I'm not going to say it has no bearing, but like it's not a championship. You don't get a banner for it or nothing like that. And maybe I would have had to go to one of those schools to really understand, you know, but it's definitely a huge deal to them. You know, everybody I know that's a Michigan fan or Ohio State fan goes crazy over that game every year. So, you know, it's good to see him win one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's been the coach since 2015.
Oh, yeah.
So it hasn't even been as long as we thought. I thought
right.
It
feels like it.
It definitely does. That's why I had to read. I'm like, yeah, wow, 6 years? It seems way longer than that.
You want to know why? Because Ohio State puts the pause on them every year. That's why it feels longer. That's why. Those L's, the Ohio State count is 5 years apiece. That's why.
Yeah.
And they're not losing by a little bit.
It's 17
There you
years
go.
worth of Ohio State ass whoopings.
Thank you.
Roll them all together.
That's exactly what it is. They count for an extra 4 years apiece, man. But again, I'm happy. I'm happy for khaki pants. All I got to say to Michigan fans, as a former, as a person who rooted for a team where khaki pants was coach, don't expect nothing of them college playoffs, boy. Beat Ohio State. I wish you the best, and I will be laughing when y'all get in Alabama or Georgia or something like that.
That can be fun.
Y'all know how it's gonna go. Y'all still haven't got a quarterback in Michigan since he's been there. Now it's gonna go. But hey, congratulations for being Ohio State. We're all proud of you here at the Focus TV. Y'all have a good night. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place as always. Catch us Friday nights at 10 p.m. on DCTV, and then Wednesday mornings at about 9:30 a.m. on our Roku channel. All you have to do is open your Roku TV or device and search the Focus TV. I got some fun stuff up there as well. Ray had something fun with sitting down with Scoop Jackson. You guys definitely want to check that out. It's definitely worth the watch and listen. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you soon.